Welcome to the Mullin It Over podcast with Reverend Jack Mullins and Austin Covey.
How's it going, everybody? And welcome to another edition of Mullin It Over with Reverend Jack Mullins and myself, Austin Covey. And we have some guests with us today from Family Promise of Irving. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, yes, I am Josey. I am the case manager at Family Promise of Irving, and this is our executive director.
Thank you. My name is SonJi Allen, executive director with Family Promise of Irving. Thanks for having us.
Well, thank you for coming. We went through their facility a little earlier, and they gave us a good tour description of the purpose and function of each of the areas, as well as some more information regarding their unique roles within the organization. I'd like to begin with a little background information about each of you, and I don't care who goes first, but a little bit about your life and how you came to this point, education, training, whatever.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was in my senior year in college in UNT of Dallas, and my degree is in human services management and leadership with a minor in business. So in my senior year, I had to complete a capstone course as well as a semester-long internship within the human services sector. So I got a list from our counselor, and Family Promise just seemed to stand out. I did a little bit of research about Family Promise, and I met with the director at the time. She offered me an internship, and so I spent a lot of time within my internship just shadowing her and the case manager at the time, doing case management with families. And so I really liked the work that they were doing there. And so the executive director at the time saw my potential and offered me a job. So as soon as I graduated, I came on board August of 2020, I believe. Mm-hmm.
So you went into your education interested in doing this.
Yes.
What got you interested in it to begin with?
So I did have a degree change in the middle of my time in college. I originally went in for business, wasn't really too good with numbers and math, and that degree definitely required a lot of math. But I've always did have a passion of serving those in crisis, in social work in general. So it did take me some time to really decide if that is the degree change I wanted to do, and I committed one day, switched over, and I'm glad I did. I really love my professors at UNT Dallas. They taught me a lot. Originally, I went through getting a certification, a concentration in substance abuse. But during my internship with Family Promise, I realized that my passion was more with families experiencing a crisis and helping them achieve their goals and navigate back to self-sufficiency.
Very good, thank you. SonJi?
Yeah. Well, pretty lengthy resume, but finally I finished school and got a bachelor's in business, but started out corporate, and it was not fulfilling. So corporate decided they did not need my services anymore, so I had to job hunt, and ended up in a homeless shelter serving the homeless under education and employment, and loved it. Still transformed those recruiting skills in corporate, and decided to help people experiencing homelessness find a job, a better job, and then find those quick 8-week courses that would level them up with a certificate, passing out medication at the hospital, phlebotomist, CDL, things like that. And so I loved it. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna stay in social services. And then ended up at Family Promise of Irving as a community engagement person per se, and like it was a long title. And then the opening came up to be the executive director, and fell madly in love with it and madly in love with my case manager, who really is the boss.
We make a great team.
Yes,
I
yes.
understand.
Would you say you find a little more fulfillment from this than
Yes, it's
corporate
hard
world?
work. Yeah, yeah. It's, you know, in corporate, when you're hiring somebody for $250,000 a year, you know, they're like, okay, what about per diem? You know, it's those things. But
And in the corporate world, we are definitely easily replaceable. And in the nonprofit world, you really can't find many people who really care.
yeah. So I like feeling good at night knowing that we did our best to serve a community who really needs us.
the helping other people is a lot more fulfilling than just boosting that bottom line? At least I would say that's my personal experience leaving corporate world and coming to.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
What can you tell us about the origins of Family Promise? Now, I understand that it is part of a national network of similar organizations. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So Family Promise was founded by a woman named Karen Olson. So she realized that homelessness was happening right in her community out in New Jersey. She, walked past a woman named Millie who was experiencing homelessness just sitting on the street, and Karen Olson offered her a sandwich. But what Millie really wanted was to be heard. And so Karen Olson sat with Millie, and what she heard was that homelessness brought these profound feelings of self-worth just diminishing. And so she knew right then and there that she wanted to make a change. So she created what used to be called the first network called Interfaith Hospitality that would later become Family Promise. So in 2003, we become Family Promise. So it switches from Interfaith Hospitality to Family Promise. Now Family Promise ends up opening their 100th affiliate in 2004. So it only took 1 year since we become Family Promise to open 100 affiliates nationwide. And so Family Promise of Irving, our specific affiliate, opened up in 2010. And it wasn't until 2012 where we served our very first family.
And the original organization started in like the 80s, is that correct?
It was in 1986, correct?
Okay.
Yes, that is when the Interfaith Hospitality Network opened, that Karen Olson opened.
Now, in our earlier conversation this morning, one thing that struck me was you consciously or not unconsciously continued to emphasize the need and the drive to minister to the entire person and not only meet their physical and immediate needs, but also their emotional and mental needs. And I thought that was very powerful and really speaks to, I want to help you. I don't want to just put a roof over your head. I want to help you as a person.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
At Family Promise of Irving, we don't believe in saying, homeless person, homeless people, homeless families. They are families experiencing homeless.
Right.
They're people first.
Yeah.
And you can always teach a man to fish, instead of just feeding the man, right? And it goes a long way. So we believe that the support in being able to see and hear them, because there's nothing worse than going through a crisis and you're not heard or seen or respected. And to come into the presence of a group of people that care about your whole well-being is so important. If you've ever been there, experiencing anything, to know that you're heard, and whether we understand it or not, just being there with the person makes a whole difference.
One of the things I heard you mention earlier on the tour, when you talked about sort of decluttering the space to help them declutter their mind, is that something you see a lot when people come in, that the term we used to use is paralysis by analysis? They have so many options, they can't figure out what to do, and they're just like, so you kind of help them kind of calm down.
And I think that is just from my own childhood. My sister, forgive me, was like the messy sister when we shared rooms. But I noticed the change in her when we would all get together and clean up. There is just this mental comfort. Everything is already discombobulated, and then with your life is discombobulated. But I feel like if it's a space that looks like we were expecting company instead of, oh, excuse the house, kind of thing. It feels good to know that we planned for families in crisis, and when they get there, they know that, oh, okay, it might be safe here.
Yes.
Instead of, well, you get what you get. Don't throw a fit. I mean, it's better than sleeping in your car, but they know we've planned for them to be there so that they can have really good quality of life and time.
I like your analogy of teach a person to fish. I had an uncle that was an avid fisherman, and he knew how. He knew where to go, and he understood the technique. It's one thing to simply hand someone a fishing pole and expect them to fish. It's another thing when you are intentional enough to teach them the skills that it requires. And that's what I get a sense that y'all do. You don't just give them a roof, you give them skills.
Yeah, and so like the resources would be the fishing pole. There's a lot of social workers that can just throw resources at someone, but these families are already juggling so much, and they're in crisis, experiencing trauma with children. And so giving them, it's not only about giving them resources, but helping them navigate those resources. And that's what we do in case management.
I would say, unfortunately, when we have people call us, we do the kind of throw them a fish. It's like, here's the ICANN website, here's the list of organizations.
But eventually they'll hit a caseworker that can help them navigate those.
Or, maybe focus on these 2 or 3, and here you go, best of luck. Unfortunately, that's kind of the extent of our resources, but that is
we kind of do triage,
Yes.
and then we refer to the specialists such as yourselves.
Exactly. One of the hardest parts about that too is we want it more than them. We have to pull back, pump the brakes, and give them those resources, and they go after it. But of course, when you're enjoying the sun and then you see somebody out there in the rain, you want them to come in from the rain.
Right.
But they have to build trust. They have to understand that we're here to make their life better, right? And so, like pulling them in, luring them with love, and then giving them the resources. But they have to pick up that phone, because even though they're in crisis, they are still whole, resourceful, and creative. And we just have to keep stirring that and keeping it warm. You can still make a call even though you're in crisis.
And even, when they navigate out of our program, we do offer some aftercare services, but other than that, they're on their own. So they have to really learn some valuable things in our program to take with them. And so one thing we learned throughout our work is that we can't be everything to everyone. And that's where these resources really come in hand.
And that raises a question regarding your clientele. Do you try to focus on families that are transitioning through homelessness versus those who are chronically homeless?
Yes, it's like we're catching those who are falling. So just a quick statistics, 40% of Americans are one $500 crisis away from homelessness. So their water boiler breaks, those are like $800 to replace, and now all of a sudden that was all their savings they had, or they didn't have a savings, and that's their paycheck, and they're already living paycheck to paycheck. So it's, those families that we're catching before they fall, before they experiencing homelessness. So like our organization, we really start with prevention programming. If we can prevent them from being homeless, that's where we step in.
What kind of stuff do y'all do to help with that prevention?
Yeah, we move pretty fast. Josey and I agreed that when somebody calls in and we have a couple of questions that they need to answer, like, how far are you behind? Because of course, grant money is not, in the millions.
Right.
And so once they, tell us when it's due, how much is due, how far are you in the eviction, or if you're being evicted. But if we can save them from any of that process, you know, and asking them, when we give this check to your landlord, is this going to keep you housed? And so we've agreed 24 hours. So if a neighbor in the community is coming to us and they're moving slow, we have to move to the next person because you're not urgent. You know, you don't feel like this is urgent when we have people that are almost packing. So we try to give that a 24-hour turnaround, but it depends on them, you know, to turn that around.
We work as fast as they work.
Yes. So when we know that they're going to be evicted, the process is to move very fast and find out where they are in the process.
And that's prevention. So preventing a family from getting an eviction on their record goes a long way. Because as soon as a family gets an eviction, they can't get housed anywhere. No landlord is going to accept them. And that's part of what I do as a case manager is, you know, build those relationships with landlord and advocate for the families who do unfortunately have those evictions on their records.
Yeah.
And my understanding is y'all are the only 2 employees, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it, I don't know if you've worked with larger nonprofits, but is your experience that you're able to move faster like that because you're smaller?
Oh, absolutely. I love the idea that I can say yes right away. I don't have to go like up another chain. With organizations, you have to have all these packets signed
You gotta
by
get
one
things
person.
approved.
Yes, and so we are able to just be like, okay, what do you think? Yes, okay, let's pay it, you know.
You are the top of the food
Yes,
chain.
yeah, and thank goodness, because it is painstaking when you have to get these approvals and it takes 45 to 90 days. But the sheriff is going to come knocking per the paperwork within 15.
Right.
So there's no chance. It's like,
Yes.
just pack up.
And you know, going back to we can't help everyone, it's like if someone's calling with an eviction of $5,000, they're not working, then we already know that unfortunately that $5,000 check could go to waste, because if they don't secure a job within the next month, you know, rent's due every month.
Right.
Then they're back to square one,
Yep.
you know, with the eviction on their record.
And I know that sounds kind of harsh, but I appreciate that you have that distinction, because sometimes convincing people, it's like, hey, look, you can't save everybody, you know.
And that's where soft case management comes in. So of course, I case manage those families that come into our shelter program. That's long-term case management, right? But through our prevention program, it's more of soft case management. Sometimes I never see them in person, we just have phone calls. But if it's a family saying, you know, I know I'm short on rent next month and I know they're gonna file an eviction on me, but I start my job in 2 weeks, that's an automatic yes.
yes.
You know, we keep tabs on them to see, like, did you have that interview? How did it go? In case that doesn't go through, here are more job options based on the resume you emailed me.
And something I've heard about more recently, I guess maybe just because the economic situation is what it is, I hear about people who are employed but just don't make enough because rent keeps getting up and up and up. Do y'all see a lot of that?
Yes.
Yes. Oh,
Unfortunately.
it makes our hearts bleed.
Especially when a family that has more than one child, and they're making, you know, $16 an hour, we already know that they're, you know, 30% of their monthly income is what we calculate is for rent. And so we have this monthly income calculation sheet that we do during orientation. And that just puts into perspective that this $16 an hour is not enough to cover rent. So then the conversation is, you know, we don't want you to quit your job because then you're making nothing, but let's look at other options while you're working.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine I went to seminary with. She was a second career, but she had been in social work in San Diego and retired and then went back to seminary. And she talked about the number of people they had who would stay unemployed, not because they wanted to, but they couldn't actually afford to get a job. Like if they had kids, child care, and some transportation and things. And she's like, they were in the system because the jobs they were eligible for didn't pay enough money to actually, you know, and I just never.
Right. I like the shovel that we get to use too. Like, you find these resources for homeless, or, you know, people, families that are experiencing homelessness. So if they are going through that, there's a DART discount. Sometimes families haven't even applied for social services like food stamps or looked into child support, you know, the things that could get them through by that supplemental income. So just teaching them about those resources really, really does help. Yeah.
Is it a matter that they don't know the resources exist, or that they
Yes.
simply don't know how to access them?
That is
Yeah,
some cases,
both.
yes.
Both.
Yeah, and so that's when we give them their toolbox, and through case management, and we love when they open up too, because it's like, they can, you know, the daycare system that's out there, the school systems that help, the connection with the counselors, the school counselors, and connecting them with us. So we do like the light that comes on when they find out about services that they didn't know existed.
It motivates them too to
Yep.
want to go out and explore other resources.
Yes. Yeah.
I've been doing ministry for a long time. And I came to experience people who chronically would use the system. They would figure out how to get into, they would learn what they needed to say to get access to Family
Yes.
Promise. And then they would just do enough to stay in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We call that working the program.
They knew how
They
to
knew
work
how
the
to work the
program.
program.
Yeah, yeah, and thank God it comes out, right? It shows itself. You know, the mask gets hot, and they have to, you know, unmask. And we learn that through when Josey is like going over finances, assigning every dollar a job. They get the money, and all of a sudden the savings account has a comma. They have now enough to buy a car. So having, you know, having shelter is out. And so just trying to ring them back in
Right.
to say, you know, you have a family now, and this is going to be a safe haven.
Yes.
And really talking to them about the bus schedules, because public transportation is brutal.
Yes.
And it's not, you know, every 30 minutes. But we've had some symposiums to talk about the transportation, especially if it's public transportation that's running. It's not going to a good job. It's the low hanging fruit. And so just trying to figure out ways to get them to get, what are they, underemployed. We want them better employed to make more money, and just trying to convince them that, you know, you can do this.
Yeah.
This might be kind of a stupid question, given your name, but y'all work with exclusively families, is that correct?
Yes,
Yes,
families
and
with
that's not,
children.
yeah, that's not stupid, because we get all kinds of calls, senior citizens, single moms, single dads, but yeah, we work with, 18?
Yes,
and
families
younger.
with children under 18. And their family dynamics can definitely range from a grandmother taking care of her grandchildren. We accept those families. Single dads, single moms. So they just have to have children under 18.
Right.
Okay. So your definition of family is flexible
Yes.
as long as there are children involved.
Yes, absolutely.
And we can tell how times are changing, right? Like 80-year-old grandma is taking care of 4 kids because daughter is still like, I want to find myself, you know? And so whatever's going on under that one roof,
Right.
we want to scoop them up.
And we also, you know, pride ourselves in being one of the only organizations, at least here in Irving, if not Dallas area, to accept single dads. A lot of shelters or organizations will separate the male from the children.
Yeah.
So it's really hard for a single dad to find placement.
Do you see a lot of them?
Yes, we do.
Oh,
yes,
yes.
we've served several
Yeah.
single dads.
It's interesting too, because as we grow in the community and as the community becomes more needy, we find out that the dynamics, you know, are so vast, but there's no services to provide for that dynamic, like dads, you know. Trying to keep the families together is disheartening, but we do it. Yeah.
Somebody's got to, so I'm glad y'all are.
Yeah.
Now, do y'all work with CPS at all? If so, how?
Yes, we get
Yes.
referrals from CPS. We get referrals from everywhere. It'll be a social worker in a hospital, the school system Project Pass. So 211 will get someone our referral, although we need to update that because they just give us as a resource to everyone, you know. That's why we get a lot of calls of just families with no children. Yeah, so CPS does provide us as a resource to their families, and of course, depending on the situation they're in and stuff, and you know, we're only limited to serving a few families right now. It's only the two of us, so yeah.
So when you talk about a CPS referral, would that be like, just hypothetically, like a case of spousal abuse or something like that, where one spouse is leaving with the kids? Is that kind of what that would look like?
That's what we see a lot, yes.
Yeah, and so sometimes they won't even have their children, but if they can find a shelter that will allow them to be with their children while they work on their life, because CPS is coming in when it's just really detrimental. And so if they've got to remove those kids, something else is going on. And sometimes it's addiction, and so we can help give them resources to those to addiction centers to help clean them up instead of taking them in. We aren't equipped right now to take domestic violence, just because we don't have the security.
Right.
But we do have resources where they can go and find shelter.
So y'all still end up sort of being a triage where they send them to you and then you help sort of disperse them other places.
Yes. We love 211. 211 is 24 hours, and 211 can help you with anything. They can give you resources like phone numbers, and you'd be amazed at how many men are being abused. So they don't like to come out with it, right? It's not the manly thing,
right.
But they can call 211 also to find help and support.
So y'all do, when you mention the addiction piece, y'all do have counseling resource and then that sort of thing?
Yeah, we have like a resource book if 211 can't help us.
Yeah, so when we're taking calls and it's automatically domestic violence or any other situation, open that resource booklet under domestic violence, give them those numbers and so forth.
Awesome. It's interesting how it takes a village to raise a child, but it really does take a village it takes a tribe. You got to build adults in these tribes so that they can take care of each other. And I feel like we're all 6 degrees of separation. Nobody's going through anything alone. We're living paycheck to paycheck, but it's when we get paid, it's taking care of that negative balance so that we can squeeze to the next check, So if we don't get that next check, we're, somebody's in trouble. And no one person is going through that alone, no matter what it is. You're either healing from it, coming out of it, going into it, or you're in it, So it's pretty interesting how life works. Life be lifing.
That is fact.
Isn't it?
That is fact.
Yes.
What do you need the most from the community?
Any support really goes a long way. Definitely financial support. You got to start
big checks, big commas.
But no, the volunteers. So within the community, the volunteers really make up majority and a huge part of our organization. We honestly cannot operate without the help of the volunteers we have.
It's a beautiful system too. We toured the day center, and so at the day center, nobody sleeps there. So they come in and fix breakfast, lunch, head to work, shower, and store their belongings. But it's the churches in the community that will pick them up at a certain time, and they go and break bread with the churches in the community. And then the churches, since they sit empty the majority of the time, will transform each room into a bedroom-like system, right? So they break bread, engage, if they're comfortable with that, and then go and be in their private room to sleep. So they're not on the interstate sleeping, they're not at Quick Trip sleeping in their car, and doing all the things that are unsafe. And these babies just, they are so resilient, and they don't even understand the trauma. They just deal with it inside of that trauma. And so being able to just, house the churches, the congregations in the community are so beautiful, because that's where our volunteers come from. So in the church, when the church wants to help us, they have a crew that cooks, a crew that spends the night, a crew that
Drives the van.
To pick up and drop off.
Yes.
And one that kind of stays with the family. We like the families to help clean up, because when you go home, you're gonna clean up. There's no volunteers there, which would be nice.
Yeah, so that
would be
is
nice.
our rotational shelter program. So we talked about our prevention program, and now this is our church rotation in shelter program.
Yeah.
When you talked about they drive the van, is that a van y'all have, or?
Yes, we have a 12-passenger van that the volunteers from the congregation drive. So such as what SonJi mentioned, once they go to sleep in the congregation's in their safe space, the overnight host is usually the van driver for the morning. We'll take them back to the day center, 6 a.m. depending on the family's work schedule. And again, they do it all over again. Families get ready for the day, get children to school, go to work, and they do it all over again. And so the church rotation model, it's every week a different church. So there is an overlap, so families get to engage with volunteers more than once when that church comes up on rotation again. And so that's our biggest need right now is, these, unfortunately, the congregations are aging out. And sometimes within these congregations, the volunteers, one volunteer can be wearing all the hats. So they're the cook, they're the ones engaging, they're the overnight host, they're the van driver, one single person. And so that is our greatest need is, looking to the community for that support to help take that load off of our current volunteers.
When you say aging out, you just mean they're getting too old to be volunteering
they've been
anymore.
volunteers since the opening of Family Promise of Irving.
Yes, it's each one teach one. But the way generations are growing up now, everything's digital. Volunteer, meaning I'm not getting paid, that generation. But they want the latest and greatest, right? But I really admire our volunteers. They have love coming from their hearts from a whole different place. It is a lot of work, and it is difficult work to engage with a person who's hurting. Hurt people hurt people,
Right.
Healed people heal people, right? And so when you have somebody in a congregation that loves God, you don't have to prove there is a God. It will be the essence of God in you that nurtures that person. Iron sharpens iron. So we're learning from each other. And I like telling our community that comes in that is experiencing a crisis, it's an honor to be in your space. Like, who tells a person experiencing homelessness that it's an honor? Because when you have nothing, you feel like, am I an inconvenience? Do you really want me here? But it erases all that when you know that it's an honor to share this journey with you, because we really are learning from each other.
Right.
And the tables can always turn, as we know.
Absolutely.
And like you said, if they have nothing, they sort of feel worthless to an extent, and I think it's good to reinforce that you're not what you have.
Oh, nobody deserves it, right? Nobody deserves to not be seen. And I think if we've ever experienced that, it's the worst feeling in the world, and it brings on more anxiety, more depression, because you don't want to be seen in your crisis, but you do want to be seen. Holding a hand.
Yes, you have to
hugging.
be seen to get out of it.
Yes. And hugging, of course, is that allowed? Because it's so creepy nowadays. But we know what hugs do in our families if we hug, holding a hand, or even listening. I don't have to solve your problems. Regurgitate and let me just hear it all. Because we know that gets out. If you get it up and out, you feel much better. Yeah.
In regard to your volunteers, what are the minimum requirements? What does a person have to do to become a volunteer?
So first and foremost, they have to be passionate about the work we do. They have to want to serve families in crisis. But other than that, we do conduct background checks, so make sure that they don't have a criminal background and they're allowed to be around our families with their children. And that's really all. I mean, have the time to, host our families as well.
It's interesting how love is kind and all the list of things, right? But it really is inconvenience. It's like I could be reading a book or sitting on a beach, but I'm gonna cook a meal for a stranger. So
Yes.
it's interesting that the volunteers, they understand the beauty of serving. It's the beauty of serving. It's beautiful to see it when it's happening.
Right now we do have 10 congregations with us, but only 8 host sites. So 2 of those congregations don't have a host site, so they are what we consider buddy churches with another congregation. So they just offer the very limited volunteers that they do have when families in another church. So we've been doing this church recruiting initiative to try and bring more volunteers in because the congregations serve quarterly. So that does leave a lot of gaps in our calendar year. And with those gaps is what we call open weeks. And when there isn't a church up on an open week and no arrangements made, then we have to, put them in a hotel. And that can get costly very fast.
Yeah.
You said you have 10 churches. How many churches roughly, I don't know, are in the Irving area?
We do have a list about 200 churches.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you people out there,
Yes.
you need to do something. No, I'm just kidding. But,
And not everyone has the capacity to host a family within their church, and that's fine. But if you can get the word out there within your congregation, even if it's just one person that is willing to volunteer to make a meal for our families, to spend the night. I know, even if it's not your home church, but touring that facility and seeing what services we offer and how it all works can make you feel more comfortable, then we're willing to bring you in and do that with you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Now, I can always see the need for public education in terms of communicating what you do and what your services are, not just to the general public, but to those who may be in need of what you have to offer. I can also see the downside to that being you could generate so much interest and so many people knowing that it would
like I said, we
overwhelm you.
We're a very small affiliate in comparison to the other affiliates nationwide, so we are very limited. I would say we can serve anywhere from 3 to 5 families depending on the family dynamic. So like if it's a mom or 2-parent family with 4 kids, that already takes up a lot of space within the congregation. So maybe we could take in another single mom with 1 kid. So again, depending, or 5 moms with 1 kid, we could probably handle that. So we're very limited on space when it comes to our in-shelter program.
when you talk about your in-shelter program, what is the roadmap for that? Like as far as them coming in, roughly how long are they there? What's the expectation for them, what they're doing when they're there? When do they get out? You know what I mean? That kind of,
Excellent
what does that look
So we
like?
have an average stay of about 70 days. We don't kick anyone out as long as they're doing what they're supposed to, meeting me for case management, doing what they need to do to get housed and work on their goals. They can stay, right? So it starts with that initial phone call. So asking them, how did you get in your situation? Where did you sleep last night? That says a lot. I was in a hotel, or I've been in a hotel for over 6 months, and we kind of know they're chronically homeless. And it's not that we don't want to help the chronically homeless, but it's like asking more questions there in that initial phone call, and then telling them all about our program in that initial phone call. So it's something that they can say, yes, I'm interested, or no, that wouldn't work for me, and then I provide a resource if it doesn't. So let's say that initial phone call leads to a mom with 2 kids, very interested in our program, looking for work. Then we background check, drug screen. They fill out our job form. which is in that initial phone call, I lead them to our website where they can easily access that job form to get all the information I need, like we need their social to do that background check. And then I bring them in for orientation. And orientation could take anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, depending on that conversation we're having in the orientation process. Give them a tour of our day center. And so orientation will consist of what is to be expected in case management in our program in general, go over our guest guidelines, basically guest guidelines, do's and don'ts. We want it to reflect basically a lease agreement as well, because that's where they're headed to after our program. And so once orientation is conducted, then we set a date. Usually it's the next day to enter our program officially. We like for it to be a day, but of course we need to give our congregations a heads up of we have a family in the program and they need to prepare for that family. So if we needed to, we'll put them in a hotel for 2 days to get that church ready for this family. And so each family gets their own personal code to our day center, so they can come in and out, and I'll prep the wardrobe room as you saw in the tour for them and the little ones, and they'll have everything they need. They submit their grocery list to us so that we have everything ready for them. And so case management begins that same week. We work on the 3 main goals of make money, save money, find housing. Some families could be ahead than others, so a family might already have a job and they're already making money, so now it's time to save money. And then find housing.
So do y'all do like financial literacy coaching and things like that with them?
Absolutely, resume building and everything in between.
And we're madly in love with AI, because now they have an app, that we can attach them to, and it applies for like 50 jobs at once.
Oh wow!
It's no longer name, address, phone number. It's a whole different kind of advancement that we have to find them jobs and fight those algorithms that kick out the resume. But I do like case management. I love the way Josey does it, because it's a climate check instead of where were you on the night of Thursday, and you're not interrogated, but it's the energy of I'm here to support you all the way. Is this something that you're comfortable with? So letting them make the choice, but seeing that they're making that progress.
Yes, we have very authentic conversations in case management. I don't like, just going by the book. And those authentic conversations, really, you'll be surprised what comes out of those. I don't like finding out important information on week 3 because they were just scared to open up. So I make them feel comfortable to open up in that first meeting.
A question that's just a point of curiosity. As you bring in the family for that interview, and I'm thinking of a single mom who comes in, she's got 3, maybe under the age of 5. I know you've got some play areas in your facility.
Yes.
Do you have anyone, a volunteer, to be with the children while the parents are going through the intake?
No, but that is a great idea.
It sure is.
We could definitely utilize that help as well. We've never.
No, I'm not volunteering.
No, it's something we didn't give much thought, just because I am very patient. I have 2 little ones of my own, so I can definitely hold a conversation while little ones are pulling on me or distracting the mom. I can get back on track with the mom, so it doesn't bother me. But that's very.
But it might bother the mom.
It could, yes.
Because I think parents a lot of times become embarrassed if their children are interrupting, even if it doesn't bother you.
And it's a great point and a great idea. And we've never thought to ask for that assistance,
that's a
but
good idea.
Viewers.
That's a good idea. Sometimes Josey will bring the toys to the kids, and we can make it through. We can make it through noise with play, and then sometimes the parents aren't comfortable, like oh, who's this?
They'll be like, no, sit there. Don't move.
Well, and I'm thinking some of your high schools may have upper class students who need service hours, and if you can schedule your intake interviews to allow them to come in and work off some of that time.
Great idea.
And something I appreciated when we toured the day center, when you're talking about giving the kids things to do, there weren't any video games.
Right.
I didn't see any video games,
We
so-
got a donation a while ago of an Xbox. It's probably the first generation. It was sitting in the garage collecting dust. I decided to connect it, and it just wasn't working, and we just thought it was trash. Maybe it was fixable, but for the life of us, couldn't get it to work. So if anyone out there wants to donate a console for children.
And I think that's why we snuck in the playground
Yeah.
and the basketball court too, because kids are only moving their thumbs, and so that fresh air. But even with the cold weather, the rainy days, it would be a treat for them to play the video games.
Yes.
But to get out and get that fresh air is even better. Yeah.
When you mentioned using, this is less on the families and more on your side of things.
Yeah.
You mentioned using the AI generated apps to try. Have y'all leaned on that any for grant writing?
No, we haven't.
I've really been kicking that idea around here, but we sort of at ChatGPT, I've heard of people using it to help accelerate their grant writing process, and so I haven't gotten to it yet, but I just wondered if y'all
interesting.
had tried it or not.
I haven't introduced Josey to a lot of the AI software, but I am, because she's sharp, sharp. And they have like other things that they call the Google killer, like Perplexity. And it gives you resources, like when you're asking it for something, it gives you resources. But the deepest I've ever gone with ChatGPT is like a workout program for my age, height, weight.
I actually haven't messed with it at all, but I was seeing different things of people using it for that kind of application, and it's like, oh, grant writing went from a week to a couple hours, and I was like, that might be.
Yeah, I have no experience with grant writing to that extent,
Yet.
other than getting emails, and it's a simple application of tell us your need and what you would do with this money. I've done those grant writings, but when you say a week, I've never experienced those kind of grant writing.
I haven't either. He has grant writing experience, but
Well, and I was going to say some of your graduate programs and even undergrad programs may offer coursework in grant writing, and that might be a good continuing ed program for either or both of you.
Yes,
there's
of
actually
course.
who is it that goes to church here that has a brother with like a degree in grant writing?
Oh, wow.
I didn't even know that was a thing. And I said something, and she was like, because I mentioned to her using the ChatGPT thing, and she's like, well, if you want, I can send it to my brother to proof it. Like if we generate it and we want somebody who knows what they're doing to look, what you're doing. I'm an idiot.
I know. I can't call the name.
But anyway, she was like, oh, my brother has a master's or something in grant writing. And I was like, I didn't even know that was.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could do that. Okay.
Yeah, and I am careful when plugging information in. So instead of using like the client's real name, and address and email, it's always John or Jane Doe at 123@gmail.com, and then create that resume and revamp it.
Because there's a 0% chance they're scraping that data for something.
Exactly.
I'm a little skeptical. Sorry.
There's still a lot to learn. Definitely a lot that I can learn from
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. We work so good together too, because I feel like I'm at the age of get off my lawn, and she's like, they're playing. It feels good to their toes, And so we work so well together because her mind is so open, and I want to get it done. I want to get it fixed, and she's thinking outside the box to do that in a way smoother way. So
We sort of joke about that too, because I'll write something, and he's the pastor, I'm not, so I'm like, make this sound pastoral.
right, yes,
Because I can
really
be
does.
maybe a little bit of a jerk sometimes, right? And I'm like, hey, can you soften this a little bit, make it sound nice?
Yes.
So,
Oh
And
my
sometimes
gosh.
that works the other way.
yeah. It's I worked at a church in Denton previously, and I don't know if when President Obama was in office, I think it was Key and Peele did a skit where one of them pretended to be him, and he was like mean Obama or whatever, and he would, in the skit, he would say the things that Obama couldn't say as president.
Yes.
And the lady that I worked with there, she was like, "You're my mean Obama." So it's like if I need to say something that I can't actually say, it's like,
Key and
Roger
Peele.
that.
Oh
I'll
my
go.
God.
I think that's who it was, but
Yes,
anyway.
it was. Yeah.
You remember that?
Yes.
skit? Yeah. So I was the mean Obama.
Yes.
That was my role.
Kind of in conclusion, what thought do you want to leave us with? I mean, about either your roles or the, let's say, the 6-month plan for
What's coming up?
Ooh, well, we've got some great things planned.
Yes.
Exciting.
So going back to our rotational program, you know, it's unfortunately hanging by a thread, as we spoke about the need that we need there. So we're still going to do our rotation program while we're still conducting this church recruiting initiative, but we know that holidays are coming up and you know, everyone's going to unplug during the holidays, and it's going to be hard to get the word out there that we, you know, need this help. So definitely hoping for the best there. If not, we are looking into a static model that we can talk all about in the next segment. But yeah, so just the need is very great out there. And again, going back to, we can't be everything for everyone, and it takes a village. So our viewers out there, you can definitely make a change, even if it's cooking a meal for a family of 5, or just reach it. You know, you can reach us through our website, and we do have a volunteer registration form you can fill out. You know, you can put in what days and times work for you. We can get in contact and discuss more about how you can help.
I do have one follow-up question before we wrap. You mentioned the it takes a village part. How is the interoperability or the interconnectedness of different nonprofits in the Irving community? Like, do y'all work a lot with other groups? Does it kind of everybody does their own thing? How is that sort of?
We're still building those relationships with other organizations in the community, but the unfortunate thing is everyone's running out of money.
And we try to, when we do meet with other nonprofit organizations, we hold ourselves responsible for what we're saying. We want to say it and do it. And we hold other nonprofits to their word, because that's all we have. And the worst thing you can do is tell a person in crisis that, yes, you're going to go here, you know, and we get stood up. So it's, we want to be able to send them where their word really is golden.
Yes, we have, you know, conversations with intent, and we would like that, you know, same respect from other organizations. And sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't. But the thing is, we really don't want to go to our families empty-handed. So regardless, us make it happen, and it really empowers these families to want to make it happen for themselves.
Do you find a general interest in other organizations wanting to work with you, or?
Yes.
Oh yeah, thank God.
Yes.
I've observed working with interfaith community organizations is that sometimes the individual organizations get kind of territorial, and the theory of sharing is much more easily advocated than the actuality of implementing the theory.
Yes, one of our biggest supportive organizations would be the Main Place. Have you guys heard of the Main Place? Yes, they're on Story Road, and so they are basically a mall without a cash register. So whenever we get families, we get them connected with the Main Place to set an appointment and go shopping for free. They get everything they need from there.
From coffee pots to clothes and shoes.
To clothing, boots, winter coats. They recently just had a winter coat drive. When we get calls from donations that we aren't just equipped to accept or store in our facility, we definitely connect them to the Main Place, because our families go there anyways.
Okay. Now, I know that you have an annual garage sale on the horizon.
Yes, we just had our first annual garage sale last month.
Oh, okay.
We posted a video about it.
Good. Thank you for that.
It did very well.
It did.
Unfortunately, we couldn't beat the heat.
We were rookies in choosing the month.
Yes, we figured that the end of September would be cooler, but we were wrong. And unfortunately, our volunteers were getting heat exhausted, so we wrapped up in half the time. So we met half our goal, so I believe we were right on track to hitting our goal. And it was a learning process, given it was our first one. And so next year's will be even better, and we'll plan for cooler weather, so we'll do it probably October 2025.
Okay. Awesome. Was that as a fundraiser?
Yes. We like to do 2 fundraisers a year, so one during the springtime and then another one during the fall. So We just had our fall one, and we are planning to throw a gala maybe in March or April, 6 months away. So we'll keep you guys posted on that.
Okay.
Awesome.
Church I was with at one point hosted a garage sale to benefit the needs of the low income of the community, but they were the targets. There's nothing offered over $1. So anyone could come in and get what they needed or wanted, but it wasn't charity. They could come in and actually, I need that set of silverware, it's $1. I can pay for that.
Yes. Oh, that's smart.
And I got excellent feedback, not only from the church members who were working it, because they could see the delight in the eyes of families who are used to having to accept handouts, to actually being able to participate.
Yeah,
That's a great
that's
idea.
There's a restaurant and it's slow and growing, but you go there to eat really good food. There's no price. Pay what you can afford.
Yeah.
If you can afford 100, give 100. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that idea. Yeah.
And you host a gala?
A gala.
Yes.
Oh, it's so fun.
It is. We kept it casual last year. The theme was Boots and Bling, held at Southern Junction. We are most likely going to do that same venue and keep, our volunteers and supporters and those that attended loved the casualness.
Oh, yes.
Prior to this gala, it was more formal, but they really loved this one. It was a hit, so we're leaning to have a similar theme in the same venue.
Yes.
And would that be this spring or fall? Or?
This spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're going to shoot more for April.
Yeah,
You wanna
April
tell them the
2025.
theme?
Yes, the theme is Sweeter in the South. So mason jars, sweet teas, boots.
Hey, I'm here for it.
I'm from the South, but I go. No, I'm from Texas. I'm not from the South.
Yeah.
And we were limited on themes because
Right.
Southern Junction is already very decorated,
Yes.
Yeah.
like the South.
Yeah.
So we couldn't just do the Great Gatsby or something
Right.
because how would we decorate that? They have large armadillo sculptures
Yes.
there. So we had to keep the theme similar to
Right.
boots and
tracks.
bling.
Yeah.
I appreciate losing the formal attire, though.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think they did too. But we Josey and I made a promise to never let our good or our good enough be the robber of our very best. And so every day we show up, we have our own families, our own problems, but we show up and it's no longer about us, it's about our neighbor, and it's about helping them immediately. And it's just an honor to be working with Josey, number one, and just to be in the position to hold space for people who need help.
That's awesome.
One thing about the informal gala that I appreciate is it has always aggravated me when a church will rent out a $1,000 a night facility to run their stewardship campaign, and I'm thinking, why aren't you doing this in your fellowship hall? Why aren't you doing this in a way that facilitates what you're asking?
Exactly.
And, live by example.
Yes.
You
Spend
can
so much money on the gala
Yes.
that it's
Yeah.
counterproductive.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so I applaud you and commend you on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good stewardship.
Yes, I've been to like $1 million fundraisers where they've raised $1 million, and they are walking around with the gold plastic forks, eating chili out of the Frito-Lay bag.
Yeah.
So you just get the bag, open it, and put chili in there because all the money needs to
Exactly.
To the ice sculpture.
yes,
Yeah.
needs to go to the ice sculpture.
Exactly.
We did some of that at the church in Denton. We did we were doing quarterly fundraisers. We would partner with a nonprofit in the area, and then we did a concert fundraiser. But we did it at the church, and kind of like I think the only expense we had was a snow cone truck. It's like just
Yes.
keep it simple and
Keep it
Yes,
simple.
that's what we loved about the garage sale too. It was very, very low cost to start up,
Yes.
and we made money to support our
Yes.
family.
Yeah,
So
that was nice. Yeah.
The first garage sale I did at one particular church, I had a lady come up to me afterwards and just irate over the fact that we were having a garage sale, and why did we make this
Yeah.
population come in and spend money? Why didn't we just give everything away? And then she came to understand we are allowing for dignity and respect by allowing them to do that. Hey, keep it nickel and dime. You know, you can pick a nickel up off the sidewalk,
yes.
and then you can go and buy a pair of jeans.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, ladies, thank you. The work you do is fabulous. The organization you represent so very, very well.
Thank you.
And look forward to sitting down with y'all again
Yes,
and
of
getting brought up
course.
to date. And
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
You're
Definitely.
welcome. You're
Anytime.
welcome. Our pleasure. So, again, Family Promise of Irving, and you can contact them via their website. And to volunteer, they need volunteers, they need donors, as do all nonprofits. But today, we're pleased to represent Family Promise of Irving. For Irving North Christian Church, we thank you. Join us Sunday mornings at 11, 2602 Texas Drive. God bless. Have a great day. Thank you for joining us today for this episode of Mulling It Over. I hope that you found something meaningful and beneficial to take with you.
If you have any questions or topics you would like to hear us discuss, you can either put them down in the video comments or you can email them to us at office@irvingnorthcc.org.
As always, we want to invite you to join us for worship every Sunday morning, 11 o'clock a.m. at Irving North Christian Church, 2602 Texas Drive, Irving, Texas. May God bless.